Good morning, Hero Power fans. It's Sunday, June the 2nd, 10 a.m. on the East Coast, and I'm your host, Avantes. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Zeroshio.
What is up, gang? I'm super excited this Sunday morning, have lots of energy, and I can't wait to do the show in this early morning. Oh, wait. I busted up the bit, didn't I?
Dude, where did all that energy come from? It's 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Oh my gosh. For those of you on the left coast, it's 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning. But we're here, and we have a great show lined up for you today. We have a few talking points, and then Mattatarms found us a great deck to check out, courtesy of the Chinese Masters. So we will look into that here in just a little while. But first up, Sorosio, how was your week?
Good. A lot of personal stuff going on, but amidst all the personal stuff, I was able to make a last-minute push and hit Legend. I did not think I was going to hit Legend. Tuesday evening, I made a little push because I wanted to try to get good on my rank so I could focus on the solo content, Chapter 4, on Thursday. And I actually hit rank 1. And I was like, well, I'm happy with that because I won't be below the rank floor come the first. And then Wednesday, I was like, well, I'm kind of caught up with all the solo content. It doesn't come out till tomorrow. Let's just play on the ladder, see what happens. And I made a good run and fell short of Legend. And I was ready to throw in the hat. I fell back down to rank 1 and 3 stars. I was like, you know what? Bomb Warrior's been doing good, but it's hitting a wall. Let me just pop over to Secret Hunter, see if I can make one more last minute push before I go to bed. And sure enough, I went like 4-1 and or 3-1, something like that. The only one loss, and hit Legend. So I hit Legend, was ready for the solo content on Thursday, and I'll tell you more about that when we get into the news section.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on hitting Legend yet again. All right, we have no emails or iTunes reviews that I'm aware of this week, so let's jump right into the news. And one of the biggest shocking things that happened this week was probably everyone's first deck building website, Hearthpwn'd, announced they are closing their tavern doors. Yeah. And so for those of you who may not be familiar, Hearthpwn'd started right around the time Hearthstone was in closed beta, I think. So it's been around since the beginning, almost 6 years. And, they have been one of those places you could go where they curated all the deck lists that were popular. And it made it an easy way to find something to play when you just wanted to sit down and play something. So this is kind of a big blow to the community. Zeroshio, what are your thoughts?
I actually was going to Hearthpwn'd before I had access to play Hearthstone. I was listening to lots of podcasts. They were telling me about these great decks and that they were loaded up to Hearthpwn'd, and I would go over to Hearthpwn'd and check out these wonderful decks and cards that I've never seen before because I'm not playing the game because I don't have access to the game. And Hearthpwn'd's been a staple of the community, even with the rise of things like HS Replay, Top Decks, all these new websites that cater towards professional, competitive decks. Hearthpwn'd's been the main source for community decks, and they have great resources for decks for solo content, all varieties of the game, wild, standard. If you have a deck that you think is viable or good or even just fun to play, you can post it to Hearthpwn'd, and it will allow you to get that get that creativity out, and it might become a meta deck because a lot of people start checking it out, playing it, and next thing you know, it pops up in the HS replay list because more people are playing it. But ultimately, it came from the source of Hearthpwn'd.com. But that's going away now. The exact details are kind of muddled. It seems like there might have been some disagreements with people running the sites and the main management.
Cough, cough, curse. Cough, cough.
Which is curse. And Flux, the main coder, programmer, web developer for this site, has had a project in the back. If you were part of his Discord, you'd heard about it. And it's changed names a few times here and there as almost like an alternative source, not to replace Hearthpwn'd, but for a smaller community. Well, he has rebranded it, and it is now public. It is in beta, and it is a new source you can go to get the same kind of Hearthpwn'd community, and it is out-of.cards. And you can go on there. I've already made an account. All of his information for Discord, if you want to be in that community, in that communication, is also there. And we have a link in the show notes to the article about Hearthpwn'd, which also contains the link to the Discord channel. But I would love to suggest, if you have always supported Hearthpwn'd, truthfully, you've always supported Flux, because Flux is the lifeblood of Hearthpwn'd, always has been. So please go to out-of.cards and join that community and build it up like we did Hearthpwn'd.
Absolutely. I'm actually creating an account right now live on the show as we speak, just to support those guys, because they've always done a fantastic job. So,
yeah, one thing I did learn when making my account is when I made my account, it failed, and I thought maybe it's not out of beta, and the wording wasn't real well. You need a fairly complex password, and it doesn't say it really well. So if it fails, try using a more complex password with symbols and numbers and capitals, and it got in for me.
Awesome. All right. So moving on, the Heist of Dalaran Chapter 4 released just a couple of days ago on May the 30th. So we now have 4 out of the 5 chapters available to play. I personally have not had a chance yet to check out Chapter 4. So, Zeroshio, I know you have been just like boom, 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 finishing these as fast as possible. What is Chapter 4 like?
So, to give you a little backstory, chapters 1 and 2 took me a few days. Of course, it's 2 different chapters. I was able to clear on Heroic within the second day from release. Chapter 3 was extremely difficult. It took me 5 whole days to finally get Heroic knocked out. So I thought, wow, they're really ramping up these difficulties. Chapter 4 is all about the twist in Chapter 4 is your health and your attack on your minions are swapped. So if you have a 2/7, it actually becomes a 7/2, and it's permanent. And it's the same for your opponent as well. So you can kind of take that into account. I pretty much blew through the normal pretty quick. The warrior, Mr. Chu, is his third hero power, which you unlock by gaining armor. You gain 50 armor. It's 2 mana to shuffle 2 explosives in your opponent's deck, and they're just like the bombs, except they explode for 3 damage. If you focus on that, you're going to beat a lot of those early bosses very handily. And then at that point, you just focus on some big cheaty minions. So normal mode was really simple. I think I got it done on like the second run. The first run I got up to the 7th boss, and I unlocked the 3rd hero power. So then I went ahead and played with it, and then I won. However, the heroic mode was difficult. I lost to Chomper 3 times in a row, and he actually can be the first or the second boss. And on heroic mode, his hero power is 2 mana, deal 2 damage to a minion, lifesteal. And a lot of your minions in the starter deck, any of the starter decks, have had their health and attack swapped, and most are 1 or 2 health at that point.
Right, so it's a board clear and heal all at the same time.
He dies every single time.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get started. I had to basically bang my head against the first couple bosses. I think I had something like 10 failed runs. And then I unlocked the bomb. Now, if you want to do it easier, you could play Mr. Chu and Heroic in one of the other chapters and unlock his third hero power. That would be an easier way, in my opinion, looking back on it now. But once I unlocked that and changed my strategy a little bit and focused on cheating out, getting treasures that cheated out minions, made their cost really low or things like that, I was able to get past them. Plus, I got lucky and didn't have to place Chomper in one of my runs, and I ended up beating Heroic that first day. Now, I don't think that's indicative of its difficulty, because I think it's extremely difficult, and I did have a lucky run with some good treasures and lucky bosses that I was queued up with. So other runs are going to be more difficult, but right now I am completely complete with normal and heroic, at least completing it one time on all 4 chapters.
Well, that's awesome.
I am going through and trying to complete normal with all classes now.
Classes, okay.
So that's going to be, obviously, when the next chapter 5, comes out. That's going to happen on Thursday, the 6th of June.
Yep. And
it's going to be you're going to be fighting against the Kirin Tor. It's the last stand. The Kirin Tor coming to
defend the city.
I'm not sure exact. We saw this live on the special stream that they had streamers playing these wings. But I do know that the final chapter has 12 bosses.
Correct. Yes.
So it's not the customary 8, and it's more difficult now. While it's more difficult because it's higher bosses, higher difficulty, it's also advantageous because you're going to get some more treasures out of this. So this is a style of these roguelikes that we've never seen before in Hearthstone, because we've always been shackled to 8 bosses, and we know we're going to end up having, by the time we get to the final boss, we're going to have 3 treasures and a certain number of cards, and we're getting used to this Bob the Bartender, or the Bartendertron, if you've ever got to see him.
Seen him once in all my runs.
I've seen him twice, but like I said, I've done the runs a lot. When you're sitting in the hospital and could hop up at any moment, solo content is perfect.
Yeah.
So here's my question is, seeing Chapter 4, and we know a little bit about Chapter 5 coming up, and your experience with it so far, I've kind of expressed my experience. Are you satisfied with this solo content as compared to previous solo content since they've started adding it to the sets? Not counting the adventures. Since Knights of the Frozen Throne, how do you think this one compares to those?
I can easily answer this and say no. I am not satisfied with this content at all. I am absolutely freaking blown away by it. It is amazing. It is by far the best solo content they have done since this game was released. I mean, look, guys, I absolutely loved all of the adventures when they first released the adventures. I loved playing through, earning rewards. Then they dropped the adventures and went to these deck building solo contents. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love deck building games. And starting with 10 cards and then crafting my deck as I play through was a huge advantageous thing for me. I love that type of content. Now they have taken the best of both of those worlds and combined them into this solo content, and it is by far way better than anything else in this game for me. I could play this solo content forever and never get bored with it. Ever, because no run is ever the same.
Yeah, and that's my point too. There's a lot of harsh opinion in the community that they promised us we would have free solo content, and this is not free solo content. I have to argue that they have not gone away with that promise. We were given free solo content with Rise of Shadows. It was called Chapter 1. If you look at, I'm not going to really compare this to Knights of the Frozen Throne because they kind of went old school with the multiple wings and things with that. But then when they started changing as of Kobolds and Catacombs to the roguelike style adventure, Chapter 1 was that much content. It was equivalent to the dungeon run and the hunt, the monster hunt from Witchwood and things like that. To me, that the amount of content in Chapter 1 was equivalent to that. You had multiple bosses, you had multiple hero powers, you could play it multiple times, you know. Then you paid for bonus content on top of that. You didn't have to pay for it. And if you wanted the same experience you got from Dungeon Run and Monster Hunt and the like, and the Rastakhan's Rumble, then sure, you got that. If you wanted to spend the extra $20, which I decided to do, I for a while was on a boycott because I wasn't satisfied with the way Hearthstone was being ran, but I've changed my mind on that. They have proven to me they are trying to make quality content, and the things they did last year are to foster that, and so far they're proving themselves. So I'm really happy with this solo content. I love that not only do you need to defeat the heroic, you get a little crown over the hero power, over the hero, the class, whenever you complete it in that mode. And then if you go into, you select them again, there's a check mark underneath any of the hero powers or any of the decks that you've beat it with. So you can actually micromanage to a point where you're like, I've gotten every crown. Then I went back and got every check mark under every hero power for every class. Then I went and got every check mark for every deck, including the random decks, which is I've tried a few random decks. They're hard because while they do give you a good curve, there's not a lot of synergies in it, and you kind of have to make that up through the draft. And it's more like the regular dungeon run you got before, where you kind of got a random deck. So I'm telling you, this is endless content. I'm probably going to be playing this through to the next set, and I don't know what they're really going to have to blow the next set solo content out of the park. And I'm really worried about it because it might. I don't know if it can be this good.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see how they continue to progress going forward in the future. So, all right, that brings us to the Mech-vitational, which will be starting tomorrow. Monday, June the 3rd. So if you are listening to this on the day it normally releases, you can look for this starting at 8 a.m. Pacific. It is a player invitational event that will be broadcast on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. And it's from what I've read, it kind of works like a sealed deck. Is that right? Players are going to open a set number of packs, try to build a couple of decks, and then they will be competing against other teams, because I guess it's teams of 2.
Yes. They're going to be starting with 20 classic packs, 20 Witchwood, 20 Boomsday, 20 Rastakhan, and 40 Rise of Shadow packs, and 5,000 gold. And then there's rules. We're not going to go into all the details of the rules and the format. That link is in our show notes if you want to check it out. And then they will be unlocking the ability to get more packs as the event goes on with victories and things like that. They've done stuff similar to this before, but this is a specific themed thing, and I'm really excited to see this. And this goes in line, and I'm going to jump news topics here at the same time. It goes in line where on the 3rd they're going to open packs. And then on the 4th is when that whole day they're going to play their games. And then basically at the end of that, whoever has the most points. This lines up with the Rise of Shadow event, which starts on June 3rd. We talked about this last week. You'll get the Snip Snap card, and the buffs are happening that day. But my question is, how do you think the meta is going to be impacted, not only from this event with the buffs and the new card coming in, but also the influence that this Mech-vitational is going to have on deck building and what type of cards are going to be important? Is there going to be a priority on these buff cards being put in decks?
I think the first few days we will definitely see a shake-up as people are trying out these new buffed or these recently buffed cards in decks to see if the buff was enough of a change to make it viable on a regular basis. I'd say give it a week, maybe a week and a half, and we'll settle into seeing quite a few regular decks like we normally do in the tournament scene, and those will be the kind of go-to decks. Again, kind of jumping across here, we saw a deck played this week that I think we're going to start seeing a little more, and that was from the Grandmasters. We got to see Pavel bring an OTK Paladin, which was a lot of fun, and I think we may start seeing that more on the ladder, even more on the ladder after these buffs happen in the Mech-vitational event starting this week.
Yeah, and Pavel proved that you can win unfavored matchups with this deck, and just with play style. And he played RDU, and RDU has not had good history versus Pavel. And it started out looking really good for RDU, but when it came down to it, Pavel won that series, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, Pavel came back to win, because I know he was down, and then he came back to win 2-1. It was a really riveting series to watch. I was at work, so I was a little distracted, but it was really riveting. Before we get into the Grandmaster dude, I do have to ask one follow-up question. At one point after these buffs, when do we finally submit and succumb to our Pogo overlords?
I think it'll be within the first day or so.
Yes, that excites me. A big shout out to It's Ben. It's Ben is a streamer and a community member friend. He's been developing Pogo Hopper decks for, months now. And he is right on the cusp of going crazy over these buffs. And I will probably be playing his decks right out the bat. But moving on to the Grandmasters. So far, we're into week 3, and we currently have 3 undefeated players. Psycho out of the EU, Phenomeno out of the EU, and Monsanto out of the Americas. Nobody in APAC is undefeated, but we do actually have a few 0-5 APAC players. So it's pretty crazy. This week 3 was different. I don't know if you noticed it, but since the nerfs, and we'll probably see this with the buffs coming up, the class selection, it was very locked to 3 classes before. You'd occasionally have a 4th one. Sometimes it would be warrior at the head, sometimes it was hunter, sometimes it was rogue, sometimes it was mage, but there wasn't a lot of diversion amongst those 4, and we saw tons of mirror matches. Since then, this week 3, not only are we seeing diverse classes, 5 and 6 different classes selected, they're very diverse decks like OTK Paladin. We had an OTK Paladin brought by Pavel, and also OTK Paladin was brought into the APAC region. I think it was Blood Trail from this morning. The match just went on right before we started the show. And when you're seeing mirror matches, the decks are so diversely different. You'll see 2 different rogues, and one's more of a Burgle-style tempo rogue, and the other is a Lackey-style tempo rogue. So even in the mirror matches, they're different. So does this mean that specialists can work? Do you feel with the Rise of Mech event coming up that this diverse kind of meta that we're seeing now since the nerfs are going to stay that way when the buffs happen?
Well, we are definitely seeing a shift in the specialist format. Whether this means it will work, I think it's still too early to make that claim.
That's fair.
Don't get me wrong. I have been a really big opponent of the specialist format. Since it was announced as an innkeeper, I was not a fan of the innkeeper format, or the specialist format, and I've not really enjoyed seeing, as you put it, all the mirror matches that we've had. That's been my biggest issue. Now, that said, with these buffs coming, if we do get a much more diverse class spread than what we have seen so far, that really could help to satiate a lot of viewers who are just bored with seeing the same thing over and over every week.
Yeah, and I think furthermore, it will help foster the pro players that are in these specialist tournaments to be more creative. If they see they have options in some of these cards to do really well, maybe Pogo Hopper becomes a deck, but not the top deck. Maybe we start seeing a Pogo Hopper Rogue versus Tempo Lackey Rogue. Or maybe we start seeing, these token druids versus, these new style of heal druids that we played a heal druid last week. I'd like to see more diversity within the class. And for that, I still stand that maybe they need to remove the number of card restriction on specialists. So you can play a token druid and then follow it up with a heal druid if you want. Because I think that allows for more creative deck teching than just 5 cards. Because now you have to tech your deck on the possibility of multiple variants within a class. And that will bring those deck builders out of the woodwork as being those top players.
Yes. If Specialist was locked into one class, but no card restriction, and you could bring multiple archetypes within that class, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that to me, that's what would fix it. Obviously, there will probably be some problems here and there that the players and the community will harp about, but I mean that's where the buffs and nerfs come in, and that's where the adjustments come in as well. So I think there's less problems with that style than what we currently have. And what we currently have, it isn't working. It isn't working for the fan base. It isn't working for the viewers. It isn't working for the players, the casual players that play Hearthstone and then want to eventually get into competitive play. It doesn't work for the competitive players. These competitive players, and these are some of the competitive players that are winning, doing really well in Masters, doing really well in Grandmasters. They're going to Twitter and saying how boring that tournament was, or how, it was a snore fest. Here I go again with some more rogue mirrors, and this is coming from people that are top 4ing and winning these tournaments. If they're not enjoying it and they're successful, there's something wrong with the format.
I agree. All right, so that brings us to our last bit of news, which is the Tavern Brawl this week. Now, since our recent move to Sundays, we have pretty much decided we're not going to cover the Tavern Brawl as much as we did when we were on Wednesday nights. But this particular Tavern Brawl, the 207th Brawl Spectacular, really needed to be talked about.
This is so funny.
Yeah, this is a really a fantastic brawl. It's a pick-a-brawl. So it really is a lot like, if you guys have ever wondered kind of what it's like to be an innkeeper, when you set up a fireside, you get to pick from a list of brawls that you'd like to have available. Now, it's not based on classes or anything like this is, but you get to pick from a list, and you can have 2 additional brawls besides the Fireside Brawl at your event. So, This is really kind of harps back to that. But basically, you will pick a class, and each class has a brawl associated with it, and then you will be assigned a random deck based on that brawl's rules. So, 207th Brawl Spectacular. Why is 207 spectacular, Zeroshio?
It's not. and Joe Mag, God love Joe Mag. I met him out at BlizzCon. This man loves Hearthstone, and he loves the community, and he is on the perfect team for him, because while we were there, he was just constantly asking people, "What do you want out of Hearthstone? What do you want out of the tavern brawls? What was your favorite tavern brawl?" He was constantly picking people's brains to make his product better. And this was meant, according to a tweet by Joe Mag, this was meant to be the 200th brawl. This Brawl Spectacular is supposed to be their 200th. However, Brawl 200 landed right in the midst of the Rise of Shadows launch. And they really couldn't feasibly have an event like this while the Rise of Shadows being launched, because it's going to take away focus from the set launch. So I get it. I get why they did it. So to kind of play on that, they're like, well, if we can't do a 200th, we'll do a 207th. Now, they could have easily been like, well, let's push this out to 250 or something like that. But no, he wanted to get this out to us. And I think it's because in the past there's been a lot of arguments of why can't we just go in and pick our own brawl? Why can't we go to a brawl, find a brawl we like, and pick it? And a lot of people say, well, if you pick one, you have to be matching against somebody that's picking the same one. And that can get confusing. Or it can make your queue times forever. But if you pick one and go in and get somebody else that has a different brawl, that won't work. Well, this brawl proves it will work. You pick from one of 9 different brawls, and you get matched against somebody else playing a different, or maybe the same, brawl with different rules. And both of your rules come into play. So I think this is a good testing ground to see if something like this could work as a mode, because we're getting to the point there's so many brawls. Making new brawls is going to start becoming difficult even for Joe Mack. And this man is super creative. So eventually that newness of brawls is gonna run out of ideas. What do? I think this type of thing is a great idea. Let people go into brawl, pick their brawls. Obviously there's going to be, these are pre-made deck brawls. So maybe they'll have to try something with the build your own deck brawls, and maybe there'll be a different time they do those. I'm just saying that this is a good testing ground, which is what they've always used brawls for. And I think it's a success.
Yes, and if after playing this, you don't want to just yell at your screen, "Neener, neener, neener, my brawl's better than yours," then you're playing it wrong.
So, real quick, we'll go over the list of brawls. You could do the Battle of Tolbarad, Yellow Brick Brawl, Treasure in Catacombs, when clones attack, the Mask Ball, the Void Singularity, Clone Ball, Randomonium, everybody's favorite, Valeria's Big Bag of Burgled Spells. Wow, say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, so I actually have one with this, playing Valeria's Bag of Burgled Spells and playing Battle of Tolbarad. I actually played one of those on one of my accounts and the other one on my Smurf account. So I love, again, I'm one of those people that I love the random decks. I love the pre-made deck brawls, because my Smurf account doesn't have a whole lot of cards on it, so I can't really build a net deck or a meta deck, so I just have to kind of go with what I've got. But in these types of events, I can compete with anybody, and that's why I really love these events. And I love this selection of brawls. I love Clone Ball. I love Yellow Brick Road, Battle of Tolbarad, Valera's. They're just so much fun. I guess I enjoy Randomonium as much as everybody else, but you know.
I only had time to do this once because of visits with my dad in the hospital. But I played Yellow Brick Brawl, which is always my favorite because you can really just cheat out wins by just slamming big minions on the board and going face from the left, and then putting really hard to deal with minions on the right. And it gave me Shaman. I don't know if it always gives you Shaman, but it gave me Shaman, so that was nice. So being able to make the totem on the right, no matter what it was a taunt totem. So yay me! I get taunt heal totems. I get taunt spell damage totems. You know, but this is fun, and I would love a mode where I can just go into Tavern Brawls and pick my brawl and play. Now the reward for this, customarily, your brawls are rewards of a standard pack. This time it was a Rise of Shadow packs. I don't know if this is a precursor of maybe they're changing their ideology and thought process on rewards for Tavern Brawl. I've always said I'd like to get the most recent set as a reward, not standard. But I can understand from a financial sales point of view, you don't want to give the current standard out, current set out, because you want to sell those packs. You want people to buy those packs. But it was nice to get a current reward instead of basically just dust, because I have all the classic packs.
Right, yeah. No, I enjoyed it a lot. If you haven't played it, by the time this comes out, it'll be gone, so sorry. But, be sure you are always checking your Tavern Brawl on Wednesday nights, because you never know what you're going to miss. All right. That brings us to this week's deck list. As I said at the top of the show, this deck was brought to us by Mattatarms. This is the most popular deck in the China Gold series, which is the Chinese version of Grandmasters. And it is Aggro Shaman. Yes, Aggro Shaman is back, folks. So I'm going to read this deck list, and then I'll turn it over to Zeroshio, as he has a few games under his belt with it this week. So the deck list contains 2 Zap, 2 Lightning Bolt, 2 Murloc Tidecaller, 2 Sludge Slurper, 2 Volcanic Burst, 2 Bluegill Warriors, 1 Earthen Might, 2 Lickum, 2 Rockbiter Weapon, 2 Underbelly Angler, Electra Storm Surge, 1 copy of Haunting Visions, 2 copies of Lava Burst, 1 Murloc War Leader, 2 Spirit of the Frog, 2 Thunderheads, and whoa, what is this? Quick, somebody find Versika on whatever island he's hiding on, and tell him there's 2 copies of Doomhammer in play.
Yep.
All right, Zeroshio.
So this it's an aggro deck, but it also can compete against other aggro decks by using a little bit of early control and then just coming in over the top with Doomhammer, Rockbiter Weapon for the win. When Avanti said I had some games with it this week, what he meant to say is I have some games with it this morning. It's a good deck. It's not my style of deck. I'm not very, very proficient at aggro, but I was able to get some really good wins with this. Electra Storm Surge can definitely compete against those other aggro decks. Electra Storm Surge into Zap just destroys Zoo. Zoo just cannot keep a board if you do that. At that point, you have the minion tempo, and the minion tempo you get from Voltaic Burst is ridiculous, because Voltaic Burst is just basically 1 mana, give you 2 1/1 rush minions, and against other aggro decks, or even just solidifying the board, it's really, really good. Now, it doesn't have something like a Bloodlust. The problem I've found with these type of decks before in Bloodlust is, if your opponent thinks you're going to Bloodlust, they'll focus a lot on your minions. With this deck, they are usually afraid of a Bloodlust, so they're going to focus on clearing your minions. That gives you time to amass the resources to get a big Doomhammer swing. I want a game with Doomhammer, Rockbiter for 16 points of damage. You can't plan for that. That's not something they can plan for. And a lot of your weapon destruction is slowly starting to leave the meta a bit because of the changes with Rogue and whatnot, and predominant of some of these other classes that don't run weapons like Mage and Priest. So this is a fun deck. You can get some good wins and shoot up the ladder with it. It does get a little difficult once you get above rank 5 because the level of play is higher there. But if you're somebody that is just trying to get up to that rank 5 floor, I think this is a great deck for you.
All right, cool. Well, I don't have Electra Storm Surge. I'm missing that card, and I think I actually only have one Doomhammer. So I was not able to play this deck this week, but I am looking forward to seeing it played. So, All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. If you are joining us on YouTube or Twitch, please stay tuned for the live play portion of our show. If you are listening via the audio podcast, we'd like to thank you for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at HeroPower_cast. Find all of our past episodes on YouTube at youtube.com/ECMMOGamers or on our website at HeroPowerHS.com. If you enjoy the show, you'd like to help support and improve it, you can do so by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/HeroPower. And we'll see you all again next week.
And don't forget to use your hero power. Did you see the tweet from MarsPad that he went ballistic at the end of last week when I did an impression of an impression? Don't forget to use your hero power.
I'll have to find that. No, I missed that tweet.
He said it was hilarious, which makes me feel good because there's people out there that actually listen all the way to the end of the show, and that makes me happy. All right, you getting into Hearthstone?
Working on it.
Now we have some notes here for our viewers. We have some notes here from Mattatarms, who has played a lot of this deck, and he wasn't able to join us this week. But he has played a lot of this deck, and he's given us some ideas on mulligan guides and things like that. Oh, somebody hasn't even gotten his first of the month rewards yet? Oh, come on, man.
Second of the month?
Yeah. Which tells me you didn't log in and do your...
Golden counter spell. I win.
You didn't do your show me your chest on the first like you're supposed to.
Well, I wasn't around a computer with Hearthstone.
I'm hearing excuses.
I now have to work Saturday mornings, and I came home and immediately left again, and it was just not a good day. If the first could not fall on a Saturday, that'd be great. Alrighty then. I am ready to spectate when you are.
Are you really?
I am.
All right, getting in. Now, I did get Legend last month, but I am currently, from testing this deck and a few other, just doing my quests, really, getting caught up with my quests. I am at the rank floor. I'm at rank 5 and 2 stars right now, so I'm not bottomed out yet.
Okay. Looks like I won the spectate boss on the first try.
Nice. So we have a priest. This is actually a pretty good matchup because we're free to kind of go crazy early game. So we have Voltaic Burst, Lightning Bolt, Angler, and Tidecaller. Mulligans, according to Mattatarms, you want to keep Lick'em Zap, Spirit of Frog, and low-cost Murlocs. So I think we don't really need to worry about early clears.
Right.
So I think we can throw back Voltaic Burst and Lightning Bolt, but I do like the Tidecaller into Angler.
Yes, I like that as well. So, do you want a Tidecaller into Angler, or do you want an Angler into Tidecaller? Well, doesn't matter now because we have another Murloc to proc the Angler.
I was going to say it depends on our draw, and since we drew another Angler,
I say you Tide Caller pass, and then next turn Underbelly coin Tide Caller.
That's what I would do. Yeah, that's definitely what I would do. So originally I was considering just going ahead and if we didn't have any other cheap Murlocs, just Tide Caller into Angler just to get the early board, because all we're going to see from him is probably maybe a Northshire Cleric. But here we can Underbelly into coin Tide Caller, and our current Tide Caller will clear the Northshire Cleric.
That is correct.
But we didn't see him play 1-on-1. And he mulliganed 2. He kept one card out of his hand. And he just passes.
Okay. So I think we start the machine gun now, right?
Yeah, so Underbelly Angler, coin, Tide Caller. Now, lots of you play Tide Caller before Murloc, but in this case, we want the draw.
Mm-hmm.
And we got another Tide Caller. That's
awesome. Great.
Now, I don't know if we would play this other Tide Caller next turn. It really depends on what he does.
Yeah, we have to wait and see what he does, but that Spirit of the Frog might not be...
Depending what he plays, we might want to play the Spirit of the Frog, because we need to start getting our other draw generation, which is drawing up to our Lava Bursts. So he just Hero Power pass.
That's good for us. With that, do we...
I think we just Tide Caller.
I think we just Tide Caller as well, yeah, and see what we draw and maybe play it too.
Because with the Thunderhead draw, which is going to be buffed here in a few days, but with the Thunderhead draw, we can Thunderhead into Zap if he puts anything out, and that will generate us 4 damage worth of clear.
Yeah.
So let's just Tide Caller, see what we draw. Maybe a Bluegill? That'd be great. I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
just
it gives
toss
all the other ones +1 down. Let's see if we can draw another 1 mana. That's
nope.
a 3 mana, okay. So
that is a ton of damage.
13 damage on turn 3.
Yep.
And if he can't clear it all, we've got a Rock Biter.
Oh, and all he has is a death. And see, this is a turn before he can Mass Hysteria. Now, we do have to worry about a possible Mass Hysteria.
Well, hang on. Let's do some math here.
Do we have lethal?
We've got 10, 11, and then the Rock Biter is 14, and Earthen Might is 16. That's lethal.
That's it. So we'll Rock Biter, Earthen Might. I was looking at trying to see if we can Nightmare Amalgam to a lethal, but yeah, you saw it. Good job. Turn 4.
That's right. Turn 4 lethal.
That's sick. Oh my gosh, that's sick.
All right.
Oh, I feel like I need a shower after that one. That felt dirty.
Oh.
And that wasn't even using the spells in the deck or getting the Doomhammer.
Pure minion death.
Man. Angler is good. Nosgad, what is up, brother? Yeah, Matt. Angler is gross. Like, I need a shower gross. It's bad. I can't believe we did that to that poor guy.
Leon, if you're out there, we apologize.
Yeah. And here comes Daryl. So we're back on the coin again. We have Underbelly Angler and Bluegill Warrior in our hand, but I don't think we keep the Thunderhead or Doomhammer.
I don't either.
The big worry on here is if he does get his early aggression with this. This is probably Spell Mage.
Yes. And
they can be proactive on the first 3 turns. Now, this is a problem I've been running into. Do I slurp her on 1 and take the mana
Overload.
deficit?
I don't think so. I think we I don't
just drew it a Tide Caller.
Yeah.
But do we coin into Angler here? Can he deal with a coin Angler?
Well, it depends on turn 2. He could Frostbolt it if he has it.
I bet he doesn't. This deck does not usually run Frostbolt main deck.
Then I think if he doesn't usually run those, I think it's a safe coin angler. Because I don't think there's any other real way for him to deal with it on turn 2.
He can Ray of Frost it, but
true.
that only freezes it and then does 2 damage.
We don't care about that. We want the Murloc generation.
Yep. I don't think he can kill it this turn.
And I think what we do next turn is we Tidecaller Slurper, and then Bluegill on 3.
Okay. Does that change our play into Bluegill instead? Ooh. No, that doesn't change anything.
No.
I still like Tidecaller Slurper.
Yeah. I think we want to try to... That generates 2 more Murlocs in our
He's
hand.
going to ping the Angler. So it's going to die. But that's 2 mana.
Die. But if we Tidecaller Slurper, that generates 2 more, and either one of those would be able to kill the girl.
Exactly. So Tidecaller first, and don't rush it out because you might get a better option. I still like Slurper here.
I still like Slurper here, yeah.
Okay. And it sets us up for a Lick'em if we need to next turn.
Correct. Oh, and we got Scargill.
We got Scargill. I love my golden anglers, by the way.
Yes.
I think I only have 1 golden. Okay, so that... And
okay,
wow, he has to clear the girl.
Okay, well that's fine. So I think we Bluegill here, don't you? And just go
Do we
face
Bluegill
for 4?
or lick them and take the advantage of the overloaded crystal?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, go ahead and lick them and hit for 5.
Yeah, because that's 1 more damage this turn, and we're taking advantage of the overload.
Yeah. And depending on what he does, we Thunderhead.
Wow. Do we Thunderhead? Yeah, I think we Thunderhead now.
I mean, that will... Ooh. Well, the other option is we Lightning Bolt. Of course, that...
I think we saved the Lightning Bolt for use with the Thunderhead.
Okay.
He has not shown a really good way to clear our minions. I think we Thunderhead.
What about... Let's talk this through real quick.
Okay.
Because the other option is Tidecaller, Bluegill, which the Bluegill then clears one of those. And then we have 1 mana left for the Lackey to discover a spell.
We could do that. So Tidecaller first.
Uh-huh.
Bluegill into Lackey.
Uh-huh.
Let's see what we get. Ooh, we could use Zap now.
We could use the Zap now and go face because, well, the Overload, will that trigger Lick'em this turn or next turn?
Yep, it will.
Okay.
It will. So we Zap 1.
Uh-huh.
We run the Bluegill in, then we go face for another 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good line. I like that line. I like that line a lot. But this is where the overload gets weird for me because I was wanting the Thunderhead Lightning Bolt next turn, but that's not going to be an option. Wow, he's drawing.
Yes, that's good.
He can't deal with these.
He's got a turn.
That means he's not dealing with the Tidecaller.
So, since we can't Thunderhead Lightning Bolt this turn, why don't we just drop Scargill to boost the Murloc? He'll see it as a threat and think he has to expend everything to get rid of it, and that buys us another turn.
The question is, does Thunderhead do the same thing? No, we need to play Thunderhead the same turn we're going to Lightning Bolt.
Right.
Now, but we go face with the Lick'em because we have the other Lick'em, right?
Exactly.
We can actually lick him into Lightning Bolt. That's 6 damage right there. Lick him Lightning Bolt weapon is 9. We're showing... We have lethal if he can't deal with these. If he can't deal with either Murloc. If he just pings off the Lackey, we win. Oh, poor Daryl. Yep, he's pinging off black.
Oh,
Win.
man. 4,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So these both
11,
go face.
12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We have lethal.
Yeah, if we... I mean, there's lots of ways to get lethal right now.
Yeah. Yeah, there really is.
I mean, there's multiple combinations of lethal in our head.
Yeah.
So...
Turn 6.
Man.
Oh, man. Well...
Yeah, so
2-0,
that's that.
just like that. That's that.
That's not exactly the experience I had this morning, but I did play some warriors and some other the counter classes. So
yeah, and really, it's one of the big things, as you alluded to, is how to best manage your overload. You know, there you saw we were trying to keep it active while to keep Lickham active while also trying to
have enough mana to do stuff.
Yeah, and keep threats on the board, so that he felt like he was playing defense the whole time. And that's really the key to this deck, is you want to keep them on their heels, keep trying to pressure as much as possible, and it just works. It's really, really a scary deck when it just fires on all cylinders.
Yeah, so 2-0. So we done?
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up this week. I've got to get this edited. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go out of town this evening, so but we will be back next Sunday. Let us know what you guys think. Does an earlier time work for you, or is a later in the evening better for you guys? We're trying to find that right place on Sundays to find out where we fit. So, yeah, drop us an email or, shoot us a message on Twitter. Let us know what you think. And we look forward to hearing from you. So,
yep.
All right, everybody. If you have any other questions or comments about the deck or the show, please also shoot us an email. And hit that subscribe button on YouTube or on Twitch to be alerted when we go live. And if you are interested, for as little as $1 a month, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/heropower and get access to our patron-only Discord. Yeah. So, all right, gang. Until next week, good gaming.
Bye, guys.